I don't want a child, Billionaire CEO said. She left pregnant. 10 years later, he found her with twins. 7 words. That is all it took to destroy a future, shatter a woman's heart, and create a decade of regret that no amount of money could ever buy back. Karen stood in the penthouse bedroom, her hands trembling so violently she could barely hold the pregnancy test. The Seattle skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows, $1 billion worth of city lights that meant nothing compared to the 2 pink lines in her palm. George, she whispered. I need to tell you something. He looked up from his laptop, still half focused on whatever acquisition was consuming his attention. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his shirt still crisp despite the late hour. Even at home, George Williams looked like he was ready for a magazine cover. What is it? Can it wait? I have a call with Tokyo in 20 minutes. No. It cannot wait. Something in her voice must have registered, because he finally closed the laptop. His eyes moved to her hands, to the white plastic stick she was gripping like a lifeline. Is that what I think it is? Karen nodded. I found out this afternoon. I wanted to wait until you got home to tell you together. George, I am pregnant. We are going to have a baby. The silence that followed was worse than any words could have been. She watched his face transform, watched the shock give way to something harder, colder. Calculation. The same expression he wore in boardrooms when evaluating a deal that did not meet his criteria. I do not want a child. I thought you understood that from the beginning. The words hit her like a physical blow. She actually stepped backward, her hip catching the edge of the dresser. What? I told you when we started this relationship. My life does not have room for children. I thought we were on the same page. George, this is not a business proposal. This is a baby. Our baby. Something we created together. Something we created accidentally, he corrected. And accidents can be addressed. Karen felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Addressed. Like the pregnancy was a typo in a contract. Like their child was an error to be corrected. Are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting? I am suggesting we discuss our options rationally. He stood from the bed, maintaining distance between them. I have built everything I have by making clear-headed decisions. This requires the same approach. Clear-headed. Karen laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to make a clear-headed decision about whether our child should exist. I want us to be realistic about what kind of life we can offer a child when neither of us planned for this. I did not plan for it, Karen said slowly. But that does not mean I do not want it. That does not mean I am not already in love with it. She pressed her hand against her still flat stomach. This is not a negotiation, George. This is a life. He was quiet for a long moment, and something flickered across his face that might have been conflict. But when he spoke again, his voice was steady and final. Then we want different things. And you need to decide what matters more to you. The ultimatum hung between them like a blade. Choose him or choose the baby. Choose his carefully structured life or choose the chaos of motherhood. Choose security or choose the unknown. Karen set the pregnancy test on the nightstand. Carefully. Deliberately. Like she was laying down evidence in a trial. Then she walked to the closet and pulled out a small overnight bag. What are you doing? Deciding, she said simply. You asked me to decide, so I am deciding. I choose this baby. I choose a future where my children are not treated like inconveniences. I choose to walk away from you before you can teach me that love comes with conditions. Karen, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. For the first time in 18 months, I am being completely reasonable. She packed quickly, taking only essentials. I loved you. God help me, I loved you more than I have ever loved anyone. And you just looked me in the eye and told me that our future was not worth protecting. That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said. She zipped the bag and turned to face him. You said you do not want a child. You said accidents can be addressed. You gave me an ultimatum between you and our baby. Those are the words you chose, George. Those are the words I will remember for the rest of my life. She walked toward the bedroom door, and he did not move to stop her. That was the part that would haunt her for years. Not his words, but his stillness. His willingness to watch her leave. If you walk out that door, he said quietly, you are making a choice you cannot undo. Karen paused at the threshold. So are you. She left the penthouse without looking back. She took the elevator down 47 floors, walked through the marble lobby where the night security guard waved at her like it was any other evening, and stepped into a city that suddenly felt foreign. She drove for 6 hours. No destination, no plan. Just movement, because standing still felt like drowning. When the sun rose over the Oregon border, she pulled into a rest stop and finally let herself cry. Not for George. For herself. For the future she had believed in that had turned out to be a mirage. For the children growing inside her who would never know the father who had rejected them before they were even born. Yes. Children. Plural. She would not discover this until her first prenatal appointment, 8 weeks later, when a tired but kind obstetrician pointed to the ultrasound screen and said the words that changed everything. "Ms. Morgan, it looks like you are having twins." Twins. Karen stared at the grainy image, at the 2 tiny heartbeats flickering in the darkness, and made a silent vow. You will never feel unwanted. You will never doubt that you are loved. And you will never have to wonder if you are enough. I will be enough for both of us. For all 3 of us. I promise. That was 10 years ago. Now, as Karen Morgan steps out of her car at the Montclair Grand Hotel, she is no longer the heartbroken woman who fled Seattle with nothing but an overnight bag and a broken dream. She is the founder and CEO of Morgan Design Studios, an architectural firm with offices in 3 cities. Her work has been featured in magazines, her sustainable housing projects have won international awards, and her net worth has quietly climbed into the tens of millions. But none of that matters as much as the 2 children who flank her as she walks toward the hotel entrance. Nathan and Naomi Morgan, 10 years old, dressed impeccably for tonight's charity gala in a way that suggests they understand the importance of appearances even as they secretly wish they were home playing video games. "Mom," Naomi whispers as they approach the door. "Why do we have to go to another boring adult party?" "Because the Children's Literacy Foundation is important, and they invited us specifically to speak about the education initiatives in our housing developments." "But there is going to be so much talking," Naomi complains. "And nobody ever has good desserts at these things. It is always weird fancy stuff that looks pretty but tastes like disappointment." Karen fights a smile. "Weird fancy stuff that tastes like disappointment. That is surprisingly poetic." "I am a poet," Naomi declares. "A poet who wants normal chocolate cake." Nathan, walking on Karen's other side, says nothing. He rarely does until he has something specific to contribute. His dark hair is neatly combed, his posture already suggesting the kind of quiet observation that misses nothing. Where Naomi broadcasts every thought and feeling, Nathan absorbs and analyzes. He is looking at the hotel with the expression Karen has learned to recognize. The one that means he is calculating structural elements, noting architectural choices, filing away details for later examination. "The lobby is well designed," he says finally. "Good use of natural light even in the evening. The support columns are decorative but functional." Karen squeezes his shoulder. "I thought the same thing when I first visited. The original architect was someone I studied in school." They check in at the registration desk, receive their table assignment, and make their way toward the ballroom. Karen has attended dozens of these events over the years, working her way from the back tables where unknown entrepreneurs sit to the prominent positions reserved for donors and influencers. Tonight, their table is near the front. A position earned through years of work and reputation. The ballroom is exactly what Karen expected. Crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light. Designer gowns and tailored suits. The soft clink of champagne flutes punctuating conversations worth millions. The kind of wealth that insulates people from real consequences, real struggles, real life. She used to be impressed by rooms like this. Now she sees them for what they are. Performance spaces where everyone plays their assigned roles. "There is the silent auction," Naomi announces, pointing to the tables along the far wall. "Can we go look? Maybe there is something actually cool." "Stay together," Karen instructs. "And do not touch anything unless you are prepared to explain to me why we now own a $10,000 painting." The twins dart off toward the auction tables, and Karen takes a moment to scan the room. She has learned to arrive at these events with her mental armor already in place. The polished smile. The confident posture. The carefully rehearsed answers to personal questions she has no intention of actually answering. She reaches for a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, and that is when she feels it. The shift in the air. The prickle at the back of her neck. The sense that something in the room has fundamentally changed. Karen turns slowly, already knowing what she will find. George Williams stands near the entrance of the ballroom. 10 years have changed him. Silver threads through his dark hair at the temples. Lines have carved themselves around his eyes, the kind that come from stress rather than laughter. He looks older, harder, more polished. Like a knife that has been sharpened so many times it has lost some of its original substance. But she would recognize him anywhere. In any room, in any city, in any lifetime. He is the man who broke her heart so completely she had to build a new one from scratch. Their eyes meet across 40 feet of marble floor and expensive perfume. For a heartbeat, everything else disappears. The noise fades. The people between them become shadows. The decade of separation compresses into a single moment of recognition and regret, and something that might be longing if Karen still allowed herself to feel that. Then Nathan appears at her elbow. "Mom, that man is staring at us." Karen does not look away from George as she answers. "I know, sweetheart. Do you know him?" "I used to. A long time ago." Nathan follows her gaze, studying George with the analytical intensity he applies to everything. His eyes narrow slightly. "Before we were born." "Yes. Before you were born." Naomi arrives a moment later, slightly out of breath. "There is a vase over there that costs more than our car. Why would anyone pay that much for something you cannot even use?" "Naomi." Karen finally breaks eye contact with George, turning to face her children fully. "I need you both to do something for me." The shift in her voice gets their attention. Both twins straighten, sensing the seriousness beneath her calm exterior. "That man near the entrance. He is going to want to talk to me. When he does, I need you to stay with me but let the adults have their conversation. Can you do that?" Nathan and Naomi exchange one of their silent looks. The twin communication Karen has never fully decoded but has learned to respect. "Is he dangerous?" Nathan asks quietly. "No. Not dangerous. Just complicated." "What kind of complicated?" Naomi presses. "The kind that involves your questions about your father." Both children go very still. They have asked about their father exactly twice in their lives. Once when they were 6 and noticed that other children had 2 parents. Once when they were 8 and a classmate made a comment that required explanation. Both times, Karen had answered honestly but minimally. Their father was someone she loved very much. He made a choice that meant he could not be part of their lives. She had built their family without him, and their family was complete. They had accepted these answers with the remarkable adaptability of children who trust their mother completely. But Karen has always known the questions would return. That eventually, they would want more than the outline of a story. She just did not expect it to happen tonight. In public. With George Williams walking toward them like a man who has just seen a ghost. "Karen," he says as he reaches them. His voice is rougher than she remembers. Less polished. "It has been a long time. George." She keeps her voice neutral, professional. The same tone she uses with difficult clients. "I had hoped we could avoid this particular conversation in public." His eyes move from her face to the children, and Karen watches the calculations happening behind them. The same calculations she made 10 years ago. The math that is 10 years too late. "These are," he starts, then stops. His composure cracks slightly, something vulnerable showing through. "They are yours." "They are mine," Karen confirms. "Nathan and Naomi, this is George Williams. An old acquaintance." Acquaintance. The word lands like a slap, and George absorbs it without flinching. He deserves worse. "Hello," Nathan says carefully, his eyes moving between his mother and this stranger with an intensity that suggests he is gathering evidence. "Hi," Naomi adds, less cautiously than her brother. "Are you rich? This is a fancy party and you look like you belong here." "Naomi," Karen murmurs, but George actually laughs. It sounds rusty, like a door that has not been opened in years. "I suppose I am," he says. "Though I am beginning to realize that wealth is not the same thing as having anything that matters." "That is deep," Naomi observes. "Most rich people do not admit that." Nathan is still watching George with that analytical gaze. "You have our eyes," he says suddenly. "The same color. The same shape. I noticed it immediately." Karen's heart clenches. Her son sees everything. Understands everything. Has probably been adding pieces together since the moment George walked into the room. George looks at Karen, and the question on his face is one she has been dreading for a decade. "Is there somewhere we can talk? Privately?" Karen glances at the twins. They are old enough to handle a few minutes alone in a crowded public space. Old enough to understand that some conversations are not meant for children. "There is a bench by the silent auction," she tells them. "Stay there. Do not leave the ballroom. I will be back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, Nathan repeats. "Not 11. Not 11, Karen agrees. She follows George toward a set of glass doors that lead to a private terrace. The same terrace, she realizes with bitter irony, that he probably scouted earlier. Because George Williams always has an exit strategy. Always has a private space identified for difficult conversations. Always is prepared. Except for tonight. Tonight, he is clearly not prepared at all. The terrace overlooks Elliott Bay. City lights reflect off water dark as ink. October wind carries the bite of approaching winter, and Karen wraps her arms around herself as she walks to the stone balustrade. She does not look at him. Looking at him is too dangerous. Looking at him might make her feel things she has spent 10 years burying. They are mine, George says. It is not a question. Karen stares at the water. Biologically, yes. In every way that actually matters, they are mine alone. I raised them. I was there for the fevers and the nightmares and the first days of school. I built my career while they were sleeping and built them while my career waited. They are my children, George. Whatever biology might claim. I did not know. Now she turns. Now she lets him see the fire in her eyes. You did not know because you made it crystal clear you did not want to know. I do not want a child. Those were your exact words. Not this is unexpected or I need time to think. You decided in 3 seconds that any child we might have was not worth your consideration. You dismissed the possibility of our family like it was a bad investment proposal. Karen, I was wrong. Yes. She laughs, and there is no humor in it. You were wrong. But being wrong does not undo a decade. Being wrong does not give you back the years you missed. Their first steps. Their first words. The way Nathan used to be afraid of thunderstorms until I taught him to count the seconds between lightning and thunder. The way Naomi learned to read 6 months before kindergarten because she refused to wait for anyone to teach her. She steps closer, her voice dropping to something more dangerous than shouting. Do you want to know what I was going to tell you that night? Before you spoke. I was going to tell you that I was scared too. That I did not know if we were ready. That maybe we should talk about options and timelines and what this meant for us. I was going to have a conversation, George. A real conversation between 2 adults who loved each other. She is trembling now, but not from the cold. But you did not give me that conversation. You gave me a verdict. And then you watched me leave and you did nothing. Nothing. You let me walk out of your life while I was carrying your children, and you did not even try to stop me. I know, George says quietly. I know. And I have regretted it every single day since. Have you? Karen shakes her head. Because from where I was standing, from the tiny apartment in Portland where I worked until 2 in the morning while twins slept in a second-hand crib, from the hospital where I gave birth alone because there was no one to call, it looked like you moved on just fine. Your company doubled. Your net worth tripled. You dated actresses and heiresses and appeared on magazine covers looking perfectly content with your choices. I was not content. I was surviving. There is a difference. Do not talk to me about survival. Karen's voice cracks. I survived on 4 hours of sleep for 2 years. I survived skipping meals so my babies could eat. I survived building a career from nothing while 2 infants depended on me for everything. That is survival. What you did was continue being rich and comfortable while I did all the hard work of raising the children you rejected. George moves closer, and Karen raises a hand to stop him. I am not finished. Then finish, he says. Say everything you need to say. I will stand here and take every word because I deserve every word. The permission catches her off guard. The George she knew would have defended himself, would have built arguments and counterarguments, would have treated her anger like a problem to be solved rather than a wound that needed witnessing. I hated you, she says. For years, I hated you. Every time I looked at our children and saw your eyes looking back at me, I hated you. Every time Nathan asked a question that sounded exactly like something you would ask, I hated you. Every time Naomi showed that stubborn determination that is so clearly inherited from someone other than me, I hated you. And now. Now I am too tired to hate you. She exhales slowly. Now I have spent so much energy building a life without you that hatred feels like a waste of resources I cannot afford. I do not hate you anymore, George. I just do not trust you. And I do not know if I ever will again. I understand. Do you? Because trust is not rebuilt with apologies. It is rebuilt with actions over time. Consistent, unglamorous, daily actions that prove a person has actually changed rather than just learned to say the right words. Then let me prove it. Karen laughs again, and this time there is something almost like amusement in it. Let you prove it. And what exactly do you want, George? What do you imagine is going to happen here? You see your biological children for the first time and suddenly you want to play father. I want to know them. His voice breaks slightly on the words. I want the chance to be part of their lives, if they will have me. If you will let me try. And if I say no, then I will respect that. I do not have the right to demand anything from you. I gave up that right 10 years ago when I chose my own cowardice over our future. But I am asking, Karen. Not demanding. Asking. She studies him in the darkness. The lines around his eyes. The silver in his hair. The vulnerability in his expression that she does not remember seeing before. Why now? Why do you suddenly want this? Is it guilt? Loneliness? Some midlife crisis that makes you want to check fatherhood off a list? It is all of those things, George admits. But it is also something else. I saw you tonight, and I saw them, and for the first time in 10 years, I understood what I actually lost. Not in the abstract. Not as a concept. But as a physical reality standing in front of me with my eyes and your smile and lives I was not part of. Pretty words. I know they are just words. He takes a breath. But I am not asking you to trust me based on words. I am asking you to let me earn trust through actions. Whatever boundaries you set, whatever conditions you require, I will meet them. I will do whatever it takes to prove that I have changed. People do not change, George. Some people do not change. Some people are too comfortable or too scared or too invested in who they have always been. But some people hit a point where they realize their entire life has been a monument to avoiding the things that actually matter. And then they have a choice. Keep building the monument or tear it down and start over. Karen is quiet for a long moment. The wind off the bay cuts through her dress, raising goosebumps on her arms. She should go back inside. She should collect her children and leave this hotel and never look back. But her children are 10 years old now. Old enough to ask questions. Old enough to deserve answers. Old enough to make their own choices about whether they want a father in their lives. I need to think, she says finally. This is not a decision I can make in 10 minutes on a terrace. I understand. Take whatever time you need. And you need to understand something else. She meets his eyes directly. If I decide to let you into their lives, it will be on my terms. Supervised visits. Strict boundaries. The absolute understanding that any failure to show up, any broken promise, any indication that you are treating this like a hobby instead of a commitment, and you are done. Permanently. No second chances after this second chance. I understand. And this has nothing to do with us. Whatever we had died 10 years ago. I am not offering you a path back to me. I am considering whether to offer you a path to your children. Those are two completely separate things. I understand that too. Do you? Because I see the way you are looking at me, and I need you to know that door is closed. Permanently. George is quiet for a moment. Then he nods slowly. If that door is closed, then I accept that. I will not pretend I do not wish things were different. But I am not here to rewrite history. I am here to try to do better with the future. Karen wraps her arms tighter around herself. I need to get back to the children. They are waiting. Can I walk with you? She considers refusing. Maintaining distance. But the reality is, he is going to be in that ballroom regardless. And the children have already seen him. Have already started asking questions she cannot avoid forever. Fine. But we are not announcing anything tonight. I have not decided anything. This is just two people walking back into a party. They return to the ballroom together, maintaining careful distance. Nathan and Naomi are exactly where Karen left them, seated on the bench by the silent auction. Nathan is reading the descriptions of various items with apparent interest. Naomi is drawing something on a napkin with a pen she must have found somewhere. Both children look up as Karen approaches, their eyes moving immediately to George, who hangs back a few steps. Is everything okay? Nathan asks. Everything is fine. Karen sits beside them on the bench. We had a grown-up conversation about some complicated things. Is he our father? Naomi asks, because Naomi has never in her life taken the indirect approach to anything. The question hangs in the air. George goes very still behind them. Karen feels the weight of the moment pressing down on her. What makes you ask that? Naomi shrugs. He has our eyes. He looks at us like we mean something to him even though he just met us. And you looked like you were going to cry when you saw him, and you never look like that about anything. You are very observant, Karen says carefully. I know. Naomi taps her pen against the napkin. So is he. Karen glances back at George, who looks like he is barely breathing. Then she turns back to her children. Yes. He is your biological father. Nathan absorbs this information with his usual composure, processing before reacting. Naomi, predictably, has a follow-up question immediately. Then why has he not been around? You always said our father made a choice that meant he could not be part of our lives. What choice? That is a long story, Karen says. And this is not really the place for it. But you will tell us? Nathan presses. The whole story? Not the version you tell us to protect us, but the real version? Yes. Tonight, when we get home. I will tell you everything. Nathan nods slowly. Okay. He looks past Karen to where George is standing. Are you going to try to be our father now? George steps forward, close enough to be part of the conversation but not so close as to intrude. If your mother allows it. And if you want me to. Why would we want you to? Naomi asks. Her voice is not hostile, just curious. You have not been around for 10 years. We do not know you. You are absolutely right. George crouches down to their level, something Karen has never seen him do with anyone. You do not know me, and I do not know you, and that is entirely my fault. 10 years ago, I made a terrible mistake. I told your mother I did not want children, and she left because of it, and I lost the chance to know you. Why did you not want children? Nathan asks. Because I was scared. George's voice is quiet but steady. I had built my whole life around being independent, around not needing anyone. Children meant needing someone. Being needed by someone. I did not think I was capable of that. And now you think you are. I think I want to try. But I also think that you and your sister get to decide whether I deserve that chance. I am not here to force my way into your lives. I am here to ask permission. The twins exchange one of their silent looks. That communication Karen has never fully understood. We will think about it, Naomi says finally. And we will tell you what we decide. That is more than fair. Good. Naomi returns her attention to her napkin drawing. Because tonight is supposed to be about the Literacy Foundation, and we already practiced what we are going to say, and I do not want to waste that. Despite everything, Karen feels a small smile tugging at her lips. Her daughter has just dismissed a billionaire like he was a minor interruption in her schedule. We should find our table, Karen says. The program is starting soon. She gathers the children and heads toward the dining area. George watches them go but does not follow. He seems to understand that he has been given all the space he is going to get tonight. At their table, Nathan leans close to Karen. He looks sad. Who looks sad? The man. Our father. He looks like someone who lost something important. Karen glances back across the ballroom, where George has retreated to his own table. He is not looking at them anymore. He is staring at nothing, a glass of untouched champagne in his hand, his expression unreadable from this distance. Maybe he did lose something important, she says quietly. And maybe he is just starting to understand what it was. The rest of the gala passes in a blur. Karen makes her scheduled speech about the literacy initiative. The twins charm the donors who approach their table. Naomi eats 3 portions of the chocolate cake that does, in fact, exist despite her earlier skepticism. But underneath the polished performance, Karen's mind is racing through possibilities and consequences. George Williams is back. He knows about the twins. He wants to be part of their lives. And she has no idea what she is going to do about it. Before I continue with what happens next, with the conversation that will change everything, I need to pause and speak directly to you. This story is about something I think we all carry with us. The fear of vulnerability. The choices we make to protect ourselves that end up isolating us. The question of whether people can actually change or whether we are all just performing better versions of our same old selves. Karen built an empire because she had to. Because a man she loved told her their future was not worth protecting. Because she refused to let his rejection define her children's lives. George spent 10 years avoiding the truth about himself. Building monuments to his own success while the things that actually mattered slipped further and further away. And now they are standing at a crossroads. The same crossroads so many of us face. Whether to trust again. Whether to let someone who hurt us have another chance. Whether the person they have become is worth the risk of getting hurt again. If you have ever had to make that choice, if you have ever had to decide whether to open a door you thought you had closed forever, then this story was made for you. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications. Because this journey is just beginning, and what happens next is going to test everything you think you know about forgiveness and family. Drop a comment telling me what you think Karen should do. Should she let George into the twins' lives? Or has he lost that right forever? I read every single comment, and your voice matters in this community we are building together. Now, let us see what happens when Karen takes her children home and tells them the truth. The drive back to their townhouse is quiet. Not tense, exactly. But weighted. The children sense that something significant is coming, and they are giving Karen the space to prepare for it. She parks in the driveway and sits for a moment, hands still on the steering wheel. Inside? Inside, Karen confirms. They enter the house together. The twins go to change out of their formal clothes while Karen puts on water for tea. A ritual. Something to do with her hands while her mind organizes what she needs to say. When Nathan and Naomi return, they are in pajamas, their faces scrubbed clean, looking somehow younger than they did in the ballroom. They settle on the couch in the living room, and Karen sits in the armchair across from them. You said you would tell us the whole story, Nathan reminds her. I did. And I will. But I need you to understand something first. This story does not have heroes and villains. It has people who made choices, some of them good and some of them terrible. I am not telling you this so you will take sides. I am telling you so you will understand. We understand, Naomi says, though Karen knows they do not yet. Cannot yet. But they will. I met your father when I was 28 years old, Karen begins. I was a young architect, just starting to build my reputation. He was 33, already running a successful company. We met at a conference, and something clicked. For 18 months, we were together. I thought we were building something permanent. What happened? Nathan asks. I got pregnant with you too. I did not plan it. Neither did he. But when I found out, I was terrified and excited and hopeful. I thought he would feel the same way. But he did not. No. Karen takes a breath. He told me he did not want children. He had always been clear about that, but I thought things might change. They did not. He suggested we address the situation, and I understood what he meant. He wanted me to end the pregnancy. Naomi's face has gone very still. He wanted to get rid of us. He wanted to get rid of the possibility of you. He did not know there would be two of you. He did not know anything about who you would become. He just knew that children did not fit into the life he had built, and he was not willing to change that life. So you left, Nathan says. I left that same night. I drove until I ran out of highway, ended up in Portland, and started over from nothing. I found out I was having twins at my first prenatal appointment. I had you alone in a hospital with no one to call. And I built everything we have without any help from him. Did he try to find us? Naomi asks. I do not know. I did not leave a trail. I did not want him to find us. I wanted to protect you from growing up feeling unwanted, the way he made me feel. Silence fills the room. Karen watches her children process this information, each in their own way. Nathan stares at the floor, running calculations she cannot see. Naomi stares at Karen, her expression shifting through several emotions before settling on something complicated. Are you angry at him? Nathan asks finally. I used to be. For years, I was furious. But anger takes energy, and I needed all my energy for you too. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being angry and started being indifferent. He was part of my past, not my present. But now he is part of our present, Naomi points out. Now he wants to be. Whether he actually becomes part of our present is something we decide together. What do you want? Nathan asks, and the question catches Karen off guard. What do I want? You always ask what we want. But this affects you too. You were the one he hurt. So what do you want? Karen considers the question carefully. Her children deserve an honest answer. Part of me wants to protect you from any possibility of disappointment. I know how much it hurts to be rejected by someone who was supposed to love you, and I never want you to feel that. Part of me wants to give him a chance because you deserve to know your father, and who he was 10 years ago does not have to define who he is now. And the rest of you? Naomi presses. The rest of me does not know. I have spent 10 years being certain about everything. About who I am, what I want, how to build our family. And now that certainty is shaken, and I am still figuring out what that means. We want to meet him, Naomi says. Properly. Not at some fancy party with everyone watching. Nathan nods. We want to know if he is real. If the person he is showing us is who he actually is, or just a performance. And if he is not real? If it is just a performance? Then we walk away, Nathan says simply. Like you did. We are your children. We know how to protect ourselves. Karen feels tears prick at her eyes. When did you get so grown up? We have always been grown up, Naomi replies. You raised us that way. That night, after the children are asleep, Karen sits in her home office and stares at the business card George pressed into her hand as they were leaving the gala. Elegant cream cardstock. Embossed lettering. 3 phone numbers and 2 email addresses. Everything about it screams wealth and status. Everything about it is exactly what she would have expected from the man she knew 10 years ago. But the man she talked to on that terrace was different. Quieter. Less certain. More willing to admit fault. People do not change, she had told him. But was that true? Or was it something she told herself because it was easier than hoping? She picks up her phone and types a message before she can talk herself out of it. The children want to meet you. Properly. Lunch next Saturday, somewhere casual. This is not forgiveness. This is an opportunity you may or may not deserve. Do not make me regret it. His response comes within minutes. I will be there. Thank you. I will not make you regret it. Karen sets her phone down and stares at the ceiling. She really hopes that is true. The week that follows is a test of patience for everyone. The twins oscillate between excitement and anxiety, asking questions Karen sometimes cannot answer. George texts twice to confirm details, his messages brief and businesslike. No pushing, no demanding, no emotional pressure. Saturday arrives gray and rainy. Typical Seattle weather. Karen takes the twins to the casual restaurant near Pike Place Market that she selected specifically for its lack of pretension. No linen tablecloths. No waiters in formal attire. Just good food and wooden tables where children can be children. George is already there when they arrive. He is sitting at a corner booth, and he stands immediately when he sees them. He is wearing jeans and a simple sweater. No suit. No visible trappings of wealth. Like he understood the assignment. Thank you for coming, he says. All of you. You were early, Naomi observes as they slide into the booth across from him. Mom says being early is a power move in business negotiations. George almost smiles. Your mother is right about that. But this is not a business negotiation. What is it then? I do not know yet. Something new. They order food. Nathan gets a grilled cheese because he is currently in a phase of preferring simplicity. Naomi gets chicken tenders because she is in a phase of refusing to eat anything that does not come with dipping sauces. George orders a burger and seems somewhat uncertain about the casual protocol. So, Naomi says once the waitress leaves, you are rich. Yes. How rich? Naomi, Karen murmurs, but George shakes his head slightly. It is a fair question. Quite wealthy. My company is worth several $billion. My personal net worth is somewhere around 800 million. Nathan's eyebrows rise. That is a lot. It is. But I have learned that having a lot does not mean having what matters. The two are often unrelated. What matters to you? Nathan asks. His tone is curious rather than challenging. He is gathering data. That is a question I am still trying to answer. George pauses, clearly choosing his words carefully. For most of my life, I thought success mattered. Building something bigger, being the best at what I did. I achieved all of that and realized I had nothing real to show for it. You have buildings, Naomi points out. And money. Yes. But buildings do not care if you come home at night. Money does not ask about your day. I have spent the last 10 years surrounded by things and people that do not actually care whether I exist or not. That sounds lonely, Nathan says. It is lonely. George meets his eyes. I did not realize how lonely until I saw you and your sister and understood what I had given up. What I had thrown away. The food arrives, providing a welcome interruption. They eat in relative silence for a few minutes, the twins processing, George waiting, Karen observing everything with the vigilance of someone protecting her young. Can I ask you something? Nathan says eventually. Anything. If Mom had not left that night. If she had stayed and fought for you. Do you think you would have changed your mind about us? George takes a moment to consider this. It is a question that deserves honesty, not comfort. I do not know. I would like to think I would have figured it out eventually. But realistically, I was very good at avoiding hard truths. Your mother leaving was the only thing that finally made me look at who I had become. So in a strange way, her leaving might have been what eventually led to the person I am now. Someone who actually wants to be different. That is a weird thing to be grateful for, Naomi observes. Gratitude is often weird, George agrees. We are rarely thankful for the things that hurt us most, even when those things are what shape us. Mom says our choices define us more than our circumstances, Nathan adds. She says you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control what you do about it. Your mother is very wise. She is. Nathan takes a bite of his grilled cheese. She also says men are often slow learners. George actually laughs at that. A real laugh, surprised out of him. She is not wrong about that either. The lunch continues. The twins ask about his work, his childhood, his hobbies. He asks about their school, their interests, the things they care about. Nathan launches into a lengthy explanation of rocket propulsion that George follows with apparent genuine interest. Naomi performs a dramatic reenactment of her recent theater experience that involves standing on her chair until Karen makes her sit down. By the time the check arrives, something has shifted. Not trust. Not yet. But the possibility of trust. A door cracked open where a wall had been. We should do this again, Naomi announces. If your mother agrees, George says, looking at Karen. She finds herself nodding. Next weekend. You can come to the house. See where we live. I would like that. They part ways in the parking lot. George watches them drive away, standing in the rain without seeming to notice it. He is sad, Naomi says from the back seat. But less sad than before. What makes you say that? I do not know. He just seems like someone who is starting to figure out that he might be allowed to hope. She pauses. Is he allowed to hope? Karen looks at her daughter in the rearview mirror. The question contains multitudes. We will see, she says. We will see. The weeks that follow establish a rhythm Karen did not anticipate. Weekly video calls on Wednesday evenings. Visits every other Saturday. A slow, careful construction of something that resembles connection. The first video call is awkward. Everyone trying too hard. George asks questions that are too formal. The twins give answers that are too brief. Karen hovers in the background, monitoring every exchange like a security guard at a museum. But by the third call, something begins to shift. Nathan holds up a sketch of a rocket engine he has been designing. It is covered in detailed annotations, mathematical formulas scrawled in the margins, arrows pointing to various components. This is the combustion chamber, he explains, his usual reserve giving way to enthusiasm. The fuel and oxidizer mix here and ignite. The expansion of gases creates thrust according to Newton's third law. George leans closer to his camera, studying the drawing with apparent genuine interest. What kind of propellant system are you using? Liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Like the space shuttle main engines. They are more efficient than solid fuel, but way more complicated. Have you considered the challenges of cryogenic storage? George asks. Keeping those propellants cold enough to stay liquid requires sophisticated insulation. Nathan's eyes widen. You know about cryogenic storage? I studied engineering before I went into business. Structural engineering, mostly. But thermodynamics was part of the curriculum. For the next 20 minutes, they discuss rocket design with an intensity that leaves Naomi rolling her eyes and Karen unexpectedly moved. Her son has found someone who speaks his language. Someone who takes his interests seriously rather than humoring them. After the call ends, Nathan is quiet for a long moment. Then he looks at Karen with an expression she cannot quite read. He actually knows things, Nathan says. Real things. Not just pretend interest. He does, Karen agrees. That is annoying. Nathan pauses. But also kind of nice. The video calls continue. 3 times a week, 15 minutes each, strictly scheduled. George never misses one. Never cancels. Never shows up distracted or rushed. Naomi starts sharing her theater experiences. She performs monologues for him, making him watch entire scenes from plays she is rehearsing. She demands feedback and is surprisingly receptive when he offers it. Your projection is good, George tells her after one particularly dramatic performance. But you are rushing the pauses. The silence between words is where the emotion lives. Naomi considers this. Mom says the same thing. Your mother is usually right about these things. I know. But it is different hearing it from someone else. Naomi tilts her head. Do you know a lot about theater? I dated an actress once. She taught me that the best performances are the ones where you cannot see the performance. Where everything looks effortless even though it is incredibly difficult. That is what I want, Naomi says. I want to be so good that nobody realizes how hard I am working. Then keep practicing. Excellence is just persistence in disguise. Karen listens to these exchanges from the next room, telling herself she is supervising rather than eavesdropping. She hears her children laughing at things George says. She hears them arguing with him about trivial matters. She hears them beginning to trust him. She is not sure how she feels about that. The first in-person visit to the house happens on a rainy Saturday in November. George arrives exactly on time, carrying a small bag that Karen eyes with suspicion. I brought something for each of them, he explains. Nothing expensive. I remember what you said about not trying to buy their affection. The gifts are modest but thoughtful. For Nathan, a book about the history of space exploration signed by an actual astronaut. For Naomi, a vintage theater program from a Broadway production of Hamlet, framed and ready to hang. How did you get an astronaut to sign a book? Nathan demands, turning the pages with reverent care. I have connections. One of my board members used to work at NASA. I asked him to help me find something meaningful. And the program? Naomi is examining the frame, tracing the elegant typography with her finger. My grandmother loved theater. She kept programs from every show she attended. I found this one in a box of her things after she passed. I thought you might appreciate it. Naomi looks up at him with an expression Karen has never seen before. Vulnerability mixed with something like acceptance. This was your grandmother's? It was. And you are giving it to me? She would have wanted someone who loves theater to have it. Someone who would understand what it meant. Naomi is quiet for a moment. Then she does something completely unexpected. She crosses the room and hugs him. Brief, fierce, over almost before it begins. Thank you, she says. I will take care of it. George looks like someone has given him something precious. Which, Karen realizes, is exactly what has happened. The weeks become months. George restructures his schedule to accommodate regular visits. He flies in every other weekend without fail. He learns the rhythms of their household, the inside jokes he was not present for, the history he missed. Karen watches carefully, looking for cracks. For signs that this is performance rather than genuine change. For the moment when he will slip back into the man she knew, the one who chose comfort over commitment. But the cracks do not come. Instead, she sees a man who listens more than he speaks. Who asks questions rather than giving answers. Who admits when he does not know something, which is often, because he is learning to be a father at the same time his children are learning to have one. One Saturday, George offers to take the twins to the Pacific Science Center while Karen catches up on work. It is the first time she has allowed him unsupervised time with them. A test he does not know he is taking. She spends the hours they are gone alternating between productivity and anxiety. Checking her phone every 15 minutes. Imagining disasters that do not materialize. When they return, the twins are exhausted and happy. Nathan is carrying a model rocket he built in one of the workshops. Naomi is wearing a temporary tattoo of a dinosaur on her cheek. We saw the planetarium show 3 times, Naomi announces. Dad fell asleep during the second one. The word lands in the room like a small earthquake. Dad. It is the first time either of them has called him that. Karen sees George freeze, sees the emotion flicker across his face before he brings it under control. I did not fall asleep, he says carefully. I was resting my eyes. You snored, Nathan points out. The lady next to us looked very annoyed. I do not snore. You definitely snore, Naomi counters. It was embarrassing. We pretended we did not know you. Despite herself, Karen laughs. The image of George Williams, billionaire CEO, being disowned by 10-year-olds in a planetarium is too perfect. I am glad you had a good time, she says. Both of you go wash up before dinner. The twins head upstairs, still bickering about the snoring incident. George watches them go with an expression Karen is beginning to recognize. Wonder mixed with grief. Joy at what he has tempered by sorrow for what he missed. They called me Dad, he says quietly. I noticed. Is that okay? I do not want to push for something they are not ready for. They would not have said it if they were not ready. Karen pauses. Nathan especially. He does not say anything he does not mean. George nods slowly. I will try to deserve it. You had better. It is not forgiveness. Not yet. But it is something. An acknowledgement that the wall between them is developing cracks that have nothing to do with failure and everything to do with possibility. For months after the gala, something goes wrong. George is supposed to fly in for Nathan's science fair presentation. He has been talking about it for weeks. Nathan has prepared a detailed explanation of his rocket design and specifically requested that George be there to answer any engineering questions the judges might ask. But the night before, Karen's phone rings at 11 p.m. "I cannot make it," George says, and his voice sounds like someone who has not slept in days. "There is a crisis with the Tokyo acquisition. If I am not physically present in the next 18 hours, the entire deal collapses. I tried to find another way. I have been trying all day. But there is no one else who can handle this." Karen feels her stomach drop. "Nathan specifically asked you to be there." "I know. I know." The anguish in his voice sounds genuine. "Can you tell him I am sorry? Can you explain that I tried everything?" "I can tell him. But George, do you understand what this means? You promised him. You have never broken a promise to them before. This is the first test, and you are failing it." "I am not failing it. I am dealing with circumstances beyond my control. Those are just words. The outcome is the same. Nathan is going to stand up at his science fair tomorrow expecting his father to be there, and his father is going to be on the other side of the world." Silence on the line. Then George's voice, barely above a whisper. "I will make it up to him." "Will you?" Karen shakes her head even though he cannot see it. "Because this is exactly what I was afraid of. This is the moment where your old life and your new life collide, and I am watching you choose your old life. That is not what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. You have a child who needs you and a deal that needs you, and you are choosing the deal. I am choosing both. I am flying to Tokyo, closing the deal as fast as humanly possible, and flying back. I will miss the science fair, but I will be there by Saturday. I will explain everything to Nathan myself. I will make him understand. Good luck with that." She hangs up before he can respond. The next morning, Karen tells Nathan that George will not be at the science fair. She watches his face go through several emotions before settling on something carefully neutral. "Business emergency," Nathan says. "It is not a question." "Yes. A deal in Tokyo." "I understand." He pauses. Things come up. It happens. But Karen can see the hurt beneath the measured response. Her son, who has spent his whole life learning not to expect things from people who might disappoint him, had finally let himself expect something. And it did not work out. The science fair happens. Nathan presents his rocket design. He answers questions from the judges with his usual precise intelligence. He wins second place, losing to a girl with a project about biodegradable plastics who is frankly brilliant. Karen takes photos. Celebrates his achievement. Does not mention George or the empty space where he should have been. That night, the video call does not happen. Nathan does not ask why. He just goes to his room and closes the door. Naomi corners Karen in the kitchen. Nathan is sad. "I know. Is Dad going to fix it?" "I do not know, baby. I really do not know." 48 hours later, Karen hears the doorbell ring at 7 in the morning. She is not expecting anyone. The twins are still asleep. She opens the door with caution, ready for anything. Except for George Williams standing on her porch. He looks like he has not slept in days. His clothes are rumpled. There is stubble on his jaw and shadows under his eyes. He is holding a paper bag from a bakery and a slightly crushed bouquet of flowers. "I flew back," he says. "The deal is not finished. My team is handling it. I delegated everything that could be delegated and left the rest. You left a multi-billion-dollar deal unfinished. It matters less than this." He takes a breath. "I spent 18 hours in Tokyo realizing that I was doing exactly what I always did. Choosing work over people. Choosing certainty over risk. Choosing the life I built over the life I want." Karen stares at him. "You look terrible. I have not slept in 52 hours. He holds out the bag. "I brought pastries. And flowers. I do not know why I brought flowers. It seemed like the right thing to do and now it seems absurd." Despite everything, Karen finds herself fighting a smile. "Come inside before the neighbors see you and start asking questions." He follows her into the kitchen, where she makes coffee while he sits at the table looking like a man who has finally hit bottom and is not sure which way is up. "The deal," Karen says. "What happens if it falls through?" "We lose about $200 million in projected revenue. The stock price takes a hit. Some investors get very upset." "And you walked away from that?" "I flew 16 hours to walk away from it." He wraps his hands around the coffee mug she sets in front of him. "Nathan needed me to be here. I promised I would show up for him. The deal was important, but he is more important. That should have been obvious from the beginning. It was not, and I am still learning how to do this, but I am learning. You missed the science fair. I know. I cannot undo that. But I can be here now. I can explain to him myself why I failed and what I am going to do differently. He looks up at her. If you will let me. Karen studies him for a long moment. The exhaustion in his face. The determination beneath it. The genuine remorse that seems to go all the way down. He is still asleep. She sits across from him at the table. You can wait. They sit in silence, drinking coffee, as the morning light grows stronger through the kitchen windows. It is surprisingly comfortable. Two people who have too much history and not enough present, finding a way to occupy the same space. An hour later, Nathan comes downstairs. He stops at the kitchen doorway, taking in the scene. His mother at the table. His father, rumpled and exhausted, holding a coffee cup. You came anyway, Nathan says. I came anyway. George sets down his cup. I missed your presentation, and I am sorry. There is no excuse that makes it okay. But I wanted you to know that I tried to be here. I flew to Tokyo, handled what I absolutely had to handle, and flew back. I have been traveling for almost 2 days straight because I could not stand the idea of you thinking I did not care. Nathan is quiet, processing this information the way he processes everything. You look terrible, he says finally. I have been told. The deal. The one in Tokyo. Did it fall apart? I do not know yet. My team is still working on it. I left before it was finished. Nathan's eyebrows rise. You left a business deal unfinished to come here. Yes. That seems financially irresponsible. Probably. George almost smiles. But I am learning that some things matter more than financial responsibility. You are one of those things. Another long silence. Then Nathan crosses the room and sits at the table across from George. I won second place. Your mother told me. I am proud of you. The girl who won first had a project about biodegradable plastics. She deserved it. Her methodology was really sophisticated. I would like to hear about your project. If you want to tell me. Nathan considers this. Okay. But you have to actually listen. Not pretend to listen while you think about business things. I will actually listen. I promise. And so Nathan explains his rocket design. Every detail, every calculation, every challenge he encountered. George listens without interruption, asking occasional questions that demonstrate genuine understanding. The conversation lasts an hour. By the end, something has shifted. Not completely healed. But shifted. The crack that opened when George missed the science fair has been addressed, if not repaired. Next time, Nathan says as George prepares to leave, call me yourself. Do not make Mom tell me. I would rather hear it from you. I will. George pauses at the door. And Nathan? There will not be a next time. I am not going to promise perfect, because I cannot guarantee that. But I am going to promise priority. You and your sister come first. Always. No matter what deal is on the table. We will see, Nathan says. We will see. But he is smiling slightly when he says it. The months continue. George keeps his word. No more missed appointments. No more business emergencies that take precedence over his children. He restructures his company, delegates more responsibility, learns to trust the people he has hired to handle things in his absence. He also, Karen notices, starts to change in subtler ways. He is less guarded. More willing to admit uncertainty. More comfortable with not having all the answers. 6 months after the gala, he makes an announcement over dinner at Karen's house. I am moving to Seattle permanently, he says. I have been restructuring everything for months. The company can function without me physically present in New York. I will travel when necessary, but this is going to be home base from now on. The twins react with excitement. Naomi immediately starts planning which room in his new house should be hers when she visits. Nathan asks practical questions about the logistics of running a company from across the country. Karen is quieter. Processing. After dinner, when the twins are upstairs doing homework, she finds George on the back porch, looking at the city lights. This is a significant decision, she says. It is the right decision. I have been commuting to fatherhood for 6 months. That is not sustainable. They deserve more than a weekend parent who shows up when his schedule allows. They have adjusted well to the current arrangement. They deserve better than adjusted. George turns to face her. And honestly, I deserve better than adjusted too. I spent 10 years building a life that looked impressive and felt empty. Now I have a chance to build something real. I do not want to do it from 3,000 miles away. Karen wraps her arms around herself against the evening chill. And what about us? What about us? You are moving here for them. I understand that. But we are going to be in each other's lives constantly. Not just co-parenting from a distance. Actually present. In the same city. At the same events. Part of the same daily routine. Is that a problem? Karen is quiet for a moment. I do not know yet. I have spent 10 years being independent. Learning not to need anyone. Building a life that works because I control every part of it. Having you here, permanently, changes that equation. I know it does. George takes a step closer. And I want you to know that I am not here to disrupt what you have built. I am not trying to insert myself into your life or take over or change the systems that work. I am just trying to be present for our children. Whatever you and I become or do not become, that is separate. Is it? Karen looks at him directly. Because I see the way you look at me sometimes. And I need you to understand that door is closed. George holds her gaze. If that door is closed, I will respect that. I am not going to pretend I do not wish things were different. But I am not here to rewrite history. I am here to try to do better with the future. Whatever future you will allow. And if I never allow more than co-parenting, then we will be the best co-parents 2 children could ask for. He pauses. I am not going to push you, Karen. I hurt you badly enough already. Whatever happens between us has to happen on your terms, in your time, or not at all. I accept that. She studies him in the fading light. Looking for deception. For the calculating businessman she knew 10 years ago. For signs that this is all an elaborate performance designed to get something he wants. She does not find what she is looking for. Instead, she finds a man who looks tired and hopeful and genuinely uncertain about everything except his desire to be present. Okay, she says finally. Move to Seattle. Be here for them. We will figure out the rest as we go. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. This is not forgiveness. This is logistics. I understand the difference. But she is not sure he does. She is not sure she does either. Before I continue with the next chapter of this story, I need to pause and speak directly to you. We have reached a turning point. George has done something remarkable. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts, but the small, daily work of showing up. He has flown across oceans. He has restructured his empire. He has learned that fatherhood is not a project you delegate when it gets inconvenient. Nathan and Naomi are beginning to trust him. They call him Dad now. They expect him to be present. They have let him into the life Karen built without him. But the question that remains, the question we have been circling this entire time, is not about the children. It is about Karen. Can she forgive the man who shattered her heart? Should she? Is redemption the same as reconciliation? I want to know what you think. Has George earned the right to more than co-parenting? Or are some wounds too deep to heal? Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe if you have not yet. Share this with anyone who has ever had to decide whether someone deserved a second chance. And now, let us see what happens when the walls finally begin to come down. George finds a house in Wallingford, a 15-minute drive from Karen's townhouse. It is a craftsman-style home with good bones and a garden that needs work. Nothing like the minimalist penthouse he maintains in New York. This is a family house. A house where children could grow up. He moves in 2 months after the announcement. The twins help him unpack, claiming bedrooms, arguing about which bathroom belongs to whom, leaving their fingerprints on a space that was previously pristine. This is weird, Naomi announces, standing in the middle of the living room surrounded by half-empty boxes. You live here now. Like, actually live here. I actually live here, George confirms. So we can just come over whenever. Within reason. Your mother and I have discussed schedules. But in emergencies, Nathan presses. If something happened and we needed you, you would be here. Not in New York or Tokyo or wherever. I would be here, George says. That is the whole point. The first few months of the new arrangement are an adjustment for everyone. George learns to grocery shop for more than one person. He learns to keep the refrigerator stocked with things children actually want to eat. He learns that his previously silent house now echoes with arguments about screen time and debates about homework and occasional fits of giggles that make the whole space feel different. He learns to love it. Karen watches from a careful distance. She drops the twins off for their weekends with George. She picks them up on Sunday evenings. She keeps communication efficient and professional. But she notices things. How happy the children seem when they return from his house. How Nathan talks about projects they work on together. How Naomi quotes things George said with the reverence she used to reserve only for Karen. She notices that it does not make her jealous. It makes her relieved. Her children have a father. A real one, not just a biological footnote. And whatever complicated feelings she has about George himself, she cannot deny that he has become someone they need. 8 months after the gala, on an ordinary Tuesday evening, Karen is working late when her phone rings. George's number. Is everything okay? She answers immediately. The twins are with him tonight. Everything is fine. His voice sounds strange. Nervous. I just wanted to ask you something. What? Would you have dinner with me? We have dinner together regularly. With the children. No. I mean without the children. Just us. A real dinner where we talk about something other than custody schedules and school events. Karen feels her heart rate increase. George. I know what you said. I know the door is closed. But I am not asking to reopen the door. I am asking for a conversation. A chance to know who you are now, outside of being the mother of my children. A chance for you to know who I am now, outside of being the father who abandoned you. And if I say no, then I will accept that and never ask again. Karen is quiet, turning the request over in her mind. The reasonable part of her says to decline. To maintain the boundaries that have kept her safe for 10 years. But another part of her is curious. Who is this man who has spent the last 8 months proving himself? Is he really different, or is she just seeing what she wants to see? One dinner, she says finally. This weekend. Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk. Thank you. I will make the arrangements. And George? Yes. This is not a date. This is reconnaissance. Understood. But when she hangs up the phone, her hands are shaking slightly. And she is not sure if it is from anxiety or anticipation. The dinner happens at a small Italian restaurant in Capitol Hill. Candlelit, intimate, the kind of place that feels designed for romance even when romance is not on the table. George is already seated when Karen arrives. He stands as she approaches, pulling out her chair with old-fashioned courtesy that feels both dated and oddly appropriate. You look beautiful, he says. You look nervous. I am nervous. This matters. They order wine. Make small talk about the children, the weather, her recent project, his company's latest developments. Safe topics that fill the space while they both gather courage for something deeper. Finally, Karen sets down her glass. Why did you choose her? George blinks. Choose who? You know who. 10 years ago. It was not just about not wanting children. It was about not wanting me. About choosing independence over partnership. I have never understood what I was not. George is quiet for a long moment, and Karen watches emotions flicker across his face. She has never seen him this unguarded. You were not anything, he says finally. You were exactly who you needed to be. The problem was me. That is a convenient answer. It is a true answer. George leans forward. You challenged me. You made me look at parts of myself I had been running from my entire life. You expected me to be better, to be real, to actually feel things instead of analyzing them. And that terrified me. So you ran. So I ran. I told myself I was protecting my independence. But really, I was protecting myself from the risk of becoming someone I did not recognize. Someone who needed another person. Someone who could be hurt. And now I understand that the version of myself I was protecting was not worth protecting. I was empty, Karen. Everything I built was hollow because I built it to avoid feeling anything real. His voice cracks slightly. You and the twins. You are the first real thing I have had in my entire life. And I almost missed it completely. Karen looks at him across the candlelit table. The silver in his hair. The lines around his eyes. The vulnerability in his expression that she does not remember seeing before. I do not trust you, she says quietly. Not completely. Maybe not ever completely. I understand. But I would like to try. George goes very still. Try what? Try to see if there is something here beyond co-parenting. Try to figure out who we are now, not who we were. She pauses. Slowly. With conditions. And with the absolute understanding that if you hurt them, or me, again, it is over. Permanently. I understand, George says. And I promise you, I will not waste this chance. Do not promise. Just do. He reaches across the table, his hand hovering near hers without quite touching. Asking permission. She turns her hand palm up. An invitation. Their fingers interlock across the white tablecloth. It feels like falling and flying simultaneously. Like ending and beginning. One day at a time, Karen says. One day at a time, George agrees. What follows is not a fairy tale. Fairy tales skip the difficult parts, the awkward conversations and the lingering doubts and the moments when old wounds reopen unexpectedly. Real life does not skip anything. Karen and George date with the caution of two people who have already been damaged by each other. They have dinners without the children. They take walks in the park. They talk about the 10 years they spent apart, carefully, like archaeologists excavating something fragile. She learns about the emptiness he filled with work. The relationships that never lasted. The therapist he finally started seeing 3 years ago, when the loneliness became unbearable. He learns about the nights she spent wondering if she had made the right choice. The moments when she almost called him. The way she built walls so high that nobody could get close enough to hurt her again. They fight sometimes. Old resentment surfacing without warning. Moments when Karen wonders if she is making a mistake, and moments when George wonders if he can ever truly make up for what he did. But they keep showing up. Keep choosing each other. Keep doing the work. The twins adapt to the new reality with remarkable resilience. They ask questions about what it means that their parents are dating. They set rules that Karen and George must follow. No kissing in front of them because that is gross. No fighting about old stuff because they were not even born when the old stuff happened. Family dinners at least twice a week because that is what families do. One evening, a year after the gala, Karen finds herself standing in George's kitchen while he cooks dinner. The twins are in the living room, arguing about something on television. The scene is so domestic, so ordinary, that she almost cannot believe it is real. What are you thinking about? George asks, stirring something on the stove. I am thinking about how strange life is. Karen leans against the counter. A year ago, I was completely certain about everything. Who I was. What I wanted. How my life was going to work. And now none of that certainty exists. Is that bad? I do not know yet. She pauses. I spent 10 years building walls. Convincing myself that I did not need anyone. That being alone was strength. And now those walls are coming down, and I do not know who I am without them. George sets down the spoon and turns to face her. You are the same person you have always been. Strong, brilliant, fiercely protective of what matters. The walls did not make you who you are. They just kept people from seeing it. Maybe. Or maybe the walls were the only thing holding me together. Then let me help hold you together. Not because you need me to. Because you might want me to. Karen studies his face. The sincerity there. The love that has grown gradually over months of proving himself. I might, she admits. Want you to. That is enough for now. He kisses her, gentle and certain. And somewhere in the living room, Naomi shouts that she can see them through the doorway and they are being gross. Karen laughs against his lips. We have been spotted. The price of having observant children. They pull apart as the twins storm into the kitchen, demanding to know what is for dinner and whether they can have dessert first and why adults always have to be weird. It is chaos. Beautiful, noisy, unpredictable chaos. Karen would not trade it for anything. 2 years after the gala, Karen and George stand together at the charity auction where everything began. The same ballroom. The same crystal chandeliers. The same wealthy donors making the same polite conversation. But everything is different. George's arm is around Karen's waist. Not performative. Not for show. Just two people who have learned to fit together after decades of fitting apart. Across the room, Nathan and Naomi work the crowd like professionals. They are 12 now, caught between childhood and adolescence, navigating the world with increasing independence. Nathan is explaining something about rocket propulsion to a bemused tech executive. Naomi is charming a group of donors with stories about her latest theater performance. They did okay, George says quietly. Did we not? We did better than okay. Karen looks up at him. We did real. Messy and imperfect and absolutely real. I love you, he says. Simple. True. Earned through every difficult moment and every choice to stay. I love you too, Karen replies. Again. Still. The twins converge on them a moment later, full of stories about the people they have met and the ridiculous auction items they have discovered. There is a yacht trip, Naomi reports. Someone is auctioning a week on a yacht in the Mediterranean. Can we bid on it? Nathan asks. That would be educationally valuable. Mediterranean history and marine biology and navigation. We will discuss it, Karen says. That means no, Naomi translates. That means we will discuss it. They move through the gala as a family. 4 people who found each other against considerable odds. Who built something from the wreckage of what could have been. Later that night, after the auction has ended and the twins are asleep in the back seat of the car, George takes Karen's hand. Thank you, he says. For what? For giving me a chance I did not deserve. For letting me prove that people can change. For building a family with me even though I almost destroyed the possibility of one. Karen squeezes his hand. You did the work. I just provided the opportunity. You provided more than that. You provided the reason. They drive home through Seattle streets that have become familiar. To a house that has become home. To a life that was built from the ashes of what was nearly lost forever. 7 words almost destroyed a family before it began. But this story is not about those words. It is about the years that followed. The choices made in the darkness. The children raised by a mother who refused to let rejection define them. The father who spent a decade learning that success without meaning is just expensive loneliness. Karen Morgan built an empire from nothing. Not in spite of being abandoned, but because she transformed that abandonment into fuel. She proved that we are not what happens to us. We are what we do about what happens to us. George Williams learned that change is possible, but only if you do the work. Not grand gestures. Not pretty speeches. Daily choices. Consistent presence. The small, unglamorous work of showing up even when it is hard. And 2 children, Nathan and Naomi, discovered that families are not defined by biology or timing. They are defined by commitment. By people who choose each other, again and again, even when choosing is difficult. The story does not end with a perfect resolution. Real stories never end that neatly. It ends with ordinary moments. Shared dinners and homework arguments and weekend adventures and all the small things that make a family. It ends with something better than perfection. It ends with real. And that brings us to the end of this journey. But before you go, I want to speak to you one final time. This story was about second chances, but it was also about first choices. About the words we say that cannot be taken back. About the power we have to destroy or to build. About the truth that redemption is not given. It is earned, through consistent action over time. Maybe you are here because you have been Karen. Someone who had to walk away and build something beautiful from nothing. Maybe you are here because you are George. Someone who made choices you regret and is wondering if it is too late to become better. Maybe you are here because you are Nathan or Naomi. Trying to understand a parent who was not there. Whoever you are, I want you to know this. Your next choice matters more than your last mistake. The story is not over until you decide it is. If this video moved you, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm this story matters. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories about complicated love, hard-earned redemption, and the messy beautiful truth of human connection. Share this with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real, but only if we are willing to do the work. And drop a comment telling me your story. I read every single one, and this community we are building together, it is real too. Until next time, this has been Mr. Dawson Stories. Take care of yourselves, and each other.